The final season of Bellaire is here. I just got done watching season 4, episode 1. Now, they premiered with 3 episodes, but I only got to watch the first one as of yet. And we only get 8 episodes in this final season. And that's very disappointing to me because I want more. But hopefully after this season ends, maybe the viewership will be so good that they do decide to give us a season 5. Or maybe we'll get a spinoff of Will and Carlton in their college years. But nonetheless, this episode was pretty good, especially towards the end of the episode with the whole Jeffrey, Phil, and Will storyline. They really started cooking with gas with that one. But before I get started, let me introduce myself if you're new here. My name is Brandi, and I realize that you could be on any channel in the world, but you're right here with me, and I really do appreciate that. So please go ahead and like this video. It really does help the channel out, and I deeply appreciate it. And also subscribe to the channel if you do like watching TV show reviews and also movie reviews. So season 4, episode 1 opens up with a time jump. We could tell that it's been maybe about a few months since season 2, the finale on this show, but I couldn't tell. Tell me exactly what you think, guys. Comment down below. How long do you think the time jump was? I think it's just been a few months or so because we see Aunt Viv in one of the opening scenes, and she has just a little baby bump, not too much, and we found out on a finale that she was pregnant, so that's why I'm guessing that it's only been a few months. And we also see Hillary in one of the opening scenes. She has on a jersey jacket with LaMarcus's number 25 on it and his last name, and she's just grieving him on social media. However, like, Hillary is my girl. She's one of my favorite characters on this show. However, I was not feeling her pain in this episode. Maybe because I didn't see his funeral, or maybe because I didn't see how his death was handled immediately in the aftermath. Like, I just was not feeling Hillary's pain, and I really wanted to be there with my girl. Also, in the opening scene, we see that Will, he's having a bit of PTSD. We see him having flashbacks of when he was snatched up off the streets in that G-Wagon. And speaking of Will, let's start off with his storyline, okay? We see that Will is now a senior in high school. He's applying to colleges, and his business with Carlton called Black Cess seems to be really thriving. We see that the boys are selling out merchandise at school. They're sold out online. So pretty much Will is really trying to focus and zoom in. However, he cannot get the situation of him being kidnapped and taken off of his mind. So after we see those men jump out the G-Wagon and throw Will in a car, we see that they took him to like a dark parking deck, and we see that Jeffrey somehow appears and saves Will. He tells Will, like, get out of there, because all the men were really asking Will was, where was Jeffrey? They really wanted to get to Jeffrey anyway. They really didn't want Will, but they were just using him as collateral damage. So Jeffrey came near and he told Will, like, get out of here. I got this. You need to go. Run, 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 run. So all throughout this episode, Will is worried about Jeffrey because Jeffrey has been missing since that incident. And rightfully so that Will has survival's guilt per se, right? Because he was there and he saw those guys take Jeffrey and he didn't help, which is fine. You know, Will is a kid at this point, but if you're with somebody and something happens to that person, even though that person is telling you run, get away, you will still feel guilty no matter what. So since Will was right there when Jeffrey was taken, it seems to be affecting him a lot more than it's affecting the rest of the Banks family. In fact, we see that Will is upset with his Uncle Phil because he doesn't think that Uncle Phil is doing enough. And I kind of agree. It didn't seem like Phil was doing too much. So Will, he takes matters into his own hands and he does his own little investigation. He teams up with Jazz, right? And this is one of my favorite parts of this episode, actually. And they go to a business that was nearby where Will actually got kidnapped. And it was a flower business of an older white lady, and she had surveillance cameras outside of her business. And they said, listen, you know, we really need to see your surveillance cameras. At first she was saying no, 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 she can't, you know, she doesn't want to get involved with anything. But then they told her it's because their dog is missing. Because, you know, if they told that lady that a black man was missing, she would not have helped at all. But anyway, the lady finally agrees and they see the surveillance, and Will was able to get the license plate number of the G-Wagon. Now, by the end of this episode, we see that Will has used his resources and Jazz to locate the G-Wagon. We see Will sitting in his car on a dark night, and Carlton pops up on him like, yo, what's going on, right? But Carlton, he's with the shits too. So we see Will, he gets out of his car, he has a baseball bat in hand, And then Carlton, he hurries up and he runs to his car to grab a golf club. And then the two boys proceed to tearing that G-Wagon up. They are busting out the windows. They are hitting the body of the wagon, the wheels, everything. And the alarm is going off on the G-Wagon, right? But I do want to note that Will, he had a hoodie on, so his face was somewhat covered. But Carlton, he just out there. He ain't have on no hat, no mask, nothing. And I think he had on his school uniform too. So I say all that to say Carlton is going to be very easily identified. And that was not really Carlton's battle to fight. Although I know Jeffrey's family, but Carlton, he could have stayed out of it at that point. Will, he wanted to get his lick back. These guys violated. And plus he thinks that these people have Jeffrey held hostage somewhere as well. But how is vandalizing the G-Wagon really helping the situation? I mean, I guess it might feel good in a moment just to vandalize the car, but how are we getting Jeffrey back? But what Will doesn't know is that Jeffrey is okay. Jeffrey is alive and he's at the crib talking to Uncle Phil. And we're going to get to that story shortly, but I am so pissed off at Jeffrey. I cannot tell you how much I hate him right now as of season 4, episode 1. I don't know if that'll change in episode 2, 3, and beyond, but right now, Jeffrey is on my shit list. Now let's talk about Hillary. This whole episode, Hillary is grieving the death of LaMarcus, and we find out that she blames herself for his death. In fact, we see her at a tribute. She's been running around doing all of these different tributes and memorials to honor his name, and at one tribute, she actually breaks down. She talks about what a loving and caring person he was, and that he deserves so much better than her, and we find out why she's saying that when she has a conversation with Will. Her and Will are sitting down at the Banks' house in the kitchen and they're sharing some cake. And she tells him, like, listen, I got a lot of maybes. And that was the title of this episode too, The Maybes. And this was one of my favorite scenes in this episode because Will and Hillary were both just sharing stories and different scenarios that they wish would have played out. The maybes, you know? So she was like, well, maybe if we didn't get on a plane because LaMarcus was not cleared to fly. And she said, maybe if I didn't stress him out so much, he would still be alive. Maybe if I loved him more, he would still be alive. She just has all of these maybes swirling around in her head. And the same thing with Will. Will blames himself for Jeffrey's disappearance. He said, maybe if I would have fought the guys harder, or maybe if I didn't go to Jeffrey's apartment that night, the guys wanting to snatch me, and therefore Jeffrey had to come save me. Maybe Jeffrey would have still been okay if it wasn't for me. We also find out on this scene that Hillary is leaving. She's going to Costa Rica. So I don't even know if we're going to see her on future episodes, but she's going there. She's going to stay at a wellness center for just a little bit. She says she needs to clear her mind. She needs to grieve in peace because nothing is making her feel better. But also, I forgot to mention before this scene, we see that Jazz approaches her. He's at the crib with Will and he goes to her to give his condolences. He apologizes that he didn't reach out to her sooner. He just didn't know what to say to her. And she really chewed him out. She says, listen, you are the last person that I want to see right now, and you need to leave me the F alone. And he can't be mad at Hillary in this moment. When people grieve, they just say things sometimes that they don't even mean. But her anger with him ties back into her saying how, you know, maybe if she didn't stress LaMarcus out so much that he would still be alive. But I don't want to see her rekindle her love or friendship with Jazz right now. I think they both need some time apart. Hillary just needs to be alone and to grieve in peace. Now, Carlton is just a damn mess. We see him in this episode. He's applying not to a bunch of different colleges. He is fixated on getting into Princeton University. And we see also that Amira has resurfaced. She is out of rehab and she just popped up and she's at the school now. And you can tell that Carlton, he doesn't like that so much because he has a new love interest that he recently started seeing. It's a cheerleader at his school named Marissa. And Amira comes up to him and she's talking to him and you can tell that Carlton is just like, whoa, you know, he's just taken aback by her presence. And I really hope that somehow Amira goes away because Carlton and Amira is no way that they need to be together right now. And I think Carlton recognizes that. In fact, he's actually tired of just hearing her talk so much about rehab. So it seems like she's getting on his nerves a little bit and she's getting on my nerves too. I mean, I understand her story, how she became an addict. That's very traumatic. You know, she started off on painkillers or whatever, but still, she just needs to leave my boy Carlton alone. But anyway, Carlton actually stole her story. So Carlton, he was talking to a man from Princeton University named Mr. Fuller. So I guess Mr. Fuller, he came out to their high school to talk to different students. So he had an interview with Carlton And then he gets up and he's about to leave and he's like, listen, I talked to a lot of kids like you that have, very good grades, very good test scores and everything. You guys are all very stellar. And then the guy is walking away and Carlton is like, but, and Mr. Fuller says, but where's your grit? Where's your Princeton perseverance? And then Carlton says, well, it is one thing that I didn't mention. I didn't mention that I am a recovering addict. The young man I am today, I really had to fight to be here. And Mr. Fuller just says, okay, well, thank you for telling me that. I really appreciate it. And he continues to walk away. And I admire Carlton for this, not for stealing Mira's story, but I admire Carlton for speaking up and trying to get the guy's attention again, because Mr. Fuller is walking out the door and Carlton says, oh, and I almost died. I OD'd in the pool. I had to be resuscitated. I almost lost my life. And I just admire Carlton for trying to go for it, but don't use a mirror story. I mean, damn. Carlton will just do anything to get ahead and to get into Princeton University. Moving along to Ashley. Ashley's my girl, but she was really getting on my nerves on this episode. She was really doing too much. So Ashley, she's a freshman at the same high school as Will and Carlton right now, and she has a boyfriend, the guy that she liked from season 2. So apparently Ashley doesn't like girls anymore. And I loved how Will and Carlton were kind of sizing the guy up and giving him a hard time about Ashley. I really love that, big brother, big cousin element of it all. Ashley, she had the audacity. They were all at the house and Aunt Viv was about to make an announcement. So they had drinks, they had the cake there, they had little snacks there, whatever, about to celebrate with some champagne. And Aunt Viv says, listen, I'm really not up for a drink right now. And Ashley says, any specific reason you're not up for a drink right now? And Aunt Viv kind of just brushes it off. And then they give the announcement that Aunt Viv, she just was commissioned to be a painter for the senator or the congresswoman, something like that, right? Basically just saying that Aunt Viv is returning to work. And Ashley says, is that the announcement? The announcement isn't that you're pregnant, so you're not pregnant. And Aunt Viv is just looking flabbergasted in that moment. Ashley mentions that she found a lot of pregnancy tests in her mom's bathroom. And one thing about kids, they always gonna find out your secrets, even quicker than the husband. The husband ain't even see all the damn pregnancy tests that the wife had taken in the bathroom. But them kids will always find out your business. But anyway, Ashley was so wrong for telling her mom's business, especially because Uncle Phil didn't even know. Aunt Viv had not even told her husband at that point. So he asked Viv, like, listen, how long did you know? And she's like, just a few weeks, and she's trying to play it off. But now you see, I'm moving into Aunt Viv's story, right? So we're done with Ashley for now. Nobody whooped Ashley. Nobody punished her. But hopefully on episode 2, somebody checks her. But Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil, they're having a conversation. They're both very reluctant about the pregnancy. But at the same time, it's a beautiful thing. And I do want to know more of the situation, just being nosy. Like, how did that happen? Like, she hasn't had a baby. Ashley is what, maybe 14, 15 years old? And she's pregnant. Like, did she get off of birth control? Did the birth control expire? I just want to know more of that story and exactly how that happened, besides the basics of how that happened. But anyway, they're just very reluctant because they thought they were about to be empty nesters and their kids are older and they're so busy. But they're moving forward with the pregnancy. And I mean, hopefully we get to meet baby Nikki. I know I saw a little boy on the trailer, but I don't know if that was baby Nikki or not. Comment down below. Let me know. Do you remember that part in the trailer where it was a little boy in the trailer? But I love me some Aunt Viv, but I don't know why she didn't tell Uncle Phil sooner. I mean, your husband is supposed to be like your best friend. Like, I can't imagine just keeping that type of secret from my husband for weeks on end. Now, let's talk about Uncle Phil a little bit more in this episode. We all know he's a super successful attorney, lots of different business deals in the works. And his latest venture is called Legacy Heights. It's like a shopping center, I believe, that they're trying to build up. And we see that he has a business partner. His business partner is a little crooked. I don't know his name at this moment. I can't remember it, but he is crooked, and hopefully he doesn't get my boy Uncle Phil in some trouble. But we see that that's what Uncle Phil is focused on right now. He's just focused on Legacy Heights. But we see at the end of this episode where Uncle Phil is prepping to do an interview with CNBC about Legacy Heights, Jeffrey pops up out of nowhere. Jeffrey has on an arm sling. He just pops up on Uncle Phil, and Uncle Phil is like, listen, I am so happy to see you, brother. Like, yo, what happened? You got to fill me in. I got to go do an interview, but we got a lot to catch up on. But he definitely shows Jeffrey love in that moment. And he even thanks Jeffrey for getting Will back home safely. And Jeffrey says, wait, there's more. I need to tell you something. And Jeffrey proceeds to tell him that he needs to pay back his debt to the gang that kidnapped Will and kidnapped him. The organization made it very clear to Jeffrey that they plan on laundering dirty money through Uncle Phil's construction campaign with this Legacy Heights deal that he has going on. They want to launder millions of dollars through Uncle Phil's business venture. And Uncle Phil was like, did you tell them about Legacy Heights? And Jeffrey was like, I didn't have to, because it's been all over the press. It's been all over the news, so they knew about it. But it seems like Jeffrey agreed to do it because he seemed pretty adamant in that discussion. But they didn't get deep into the conversation right there because, again, Uncle Phil was prepping to do an interview with CNBC, so he walks away in that moment. But my thing is, Jeffrey, I cannot stand him on this episode. He is bringing trouble to this family's front door. At this point, Jeffrey, listen, you need to just take whatever's coming to you. You know how the streets work. And the thing is, though, that's sad is that Jeffrey has not been like in the streets in like 20, 25 years, something crazy like that. But his past is still haunting him and he has to pay these debts back. But don't bring the banks into it. You need to handle your business. You are a grown man. How dare you go to Phil? No, keep your problems to yourself. Don't bring your problems to my front door. And I like how Aunt Viv said, it was in the preview. It wasn't on this episode. It was in a preview for one of the upcoming episodes. But Aunt Viv looks like she was telling Jeffrey, like, listen, I don't have any room for anything else except my kids. And I felt that, like, they got kids to worry about. Aunt Viv is pregnant and you bringing all of this drama to their front door. Oh my God. But again, this is just episode 1, season 4. So hopefully things turn around and hopefully he just mans up and figures out a way out of this mess. And hopefully nobody dies either, because we also saw on a preview for upcoming episodes that it looks like their house was vandalized. So I'm like, is this some kind of cartel organization? Like, what's going on here? But nonetheless, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you made it this far, comment down below. Let me know what you thought about episode 1. And also just let me know what you think about this whole Jeffrey situation. I think this is going to be my favorite storyline in this season. But nonetheless, I love you all. Turn on your notifications for the next BEL-AIR recap. See you next time. Peace.